royal treatment that Trump has been getting during his first major foreign trip, rivaling the Saudis and impressing the president. That included an arrival that had government vehicles that were red Tesla Cybertrucks leading the motorcade after we touched down here into the city. And at the Emir's administrative office, where we were earlier, President Trump and his team was greeted by Arabian horses, mounted camels. The president, though, seemed to be quite taken with the latter.
This is what they call perfecto, and just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place, and we appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time.
The president ended his day after those meetings by attending a state dinner here in his honor, where the Emir, that you just saw seated to the president's left, presented him with a soccer ball since the last World Cup was here, and the next one will be held in North America. But for all the focus on gifts, from planes to swords to soccer balls, this is what President Trump used to say when it came to gifts from the very countries that he has been visiting so far in this swing.
It's a criminal enterprise. Saudi Arabia giving $25 billion, Qatar, all of these countries. You talk about women and women's rights. So these are people that push gays off buildings. These are people that kill women and treat women horribly, and yet you take their money. So I'd like to ask you right now, why don't you give back the money that you've taken from certain countries that treat certain groups of people so horribly? Why don't you give back the money? I think it would be a great gesture.
That was 2016. This is now. There are fewer journalists in the region or a better source than my first source tonight, the managing editor of CNN Abu Dhabi and the host of CNN's International Connect the World, Becky Anderson. It's so great to have you here. It's been obviously quite a busy first day already that Trump has been here in Doha. And as we were hearing from him on his expectations for the visit, you actually sat down with the Qatari Prime Minister, who he was seated right off camera there to the left of the Emir, about this very gift that has kind of loomed over all of this plane. I want to listen to what he told you about this transaction.
We will not do anything illegal. I mean, if there was something illegal, there were many ways to hide these kind of transactions when will not be visible for the public. I mean, this is a very clear exchange that's happening between two governments, and this is happening between countries around the world. I don't see any controversy in it. I don't know why it's been taken to a different direction and it's being politicized this way.
What were your takeaways from that?
Well, I did ask the Prime Minister whether the country had anticipated this furore, and if that had been the case, whether they would have indeed made this offer. And he's absolutely indignant about it. I mean, his bottom line is this is a government-to-government offer. This is not a personal offer to the president. They have a very deep relationship, certainly much better than that which was being sort of laid out by President Trump back in 2016. It wasn't a good relationship in the first Trump administration, but it's deepened significantly since then, the Prime Minister said. And frankly, he said, just as when Qatar helped out the US repatriating Americans from Afghanistan and others from Afghanistan, this was about a mutually beneficial relationship, not by any stretch because they are looking for influence. He said that is absolutely not the case. They don't need any influence. He said this is about a deep relationship, government to government, and they have no regrets as long as, he said, this is legal, and he said it sits currently with the lawyers.
Yeah, and on this relationship overall, I mean, there's a major U.S. base here. Obviously, they played a huge role in helping release the hostages that are being held by Hamas. What else did he have to say to you about the focus of this?
Yeah, it was a wide-ranging interview. We talked about Iran behind the scenes. The Kashmiris have a very good relationship with the Iranians, and President Trump had suggested that the Emir had been helping out in these US talks, and we didn't give me any further detail than that on what the offer from the US might look like. We also talked about Gaza. There is an Israeli negotiation team here on the ground with Steve Witkoff and Adam Boehler. Some disappointment from the Prime Minister. He said that the sense was that the Israelis weren't interested in talking about a ceasefire. It was just about reaching a deal with hostages at the moment, and he said that is not the right way to come into these negotiations. He also talked about Syria, which he said is really important. The Qataris have an enormous sort of mediation file, and that is indispensable to the US as a key ally. And on Syria, he said what happens in Syria doesn't stay in Syria. He said it's a center of gravity in this region, and stability there will cascade through the region. I asked him very specifically about the offer that President Trump had made to the president of Syria about the Abrahamic Accords, trying to encourage the president to sign up to the Abrahamic Accords, normalize relations with Israel. This is what he told me.
We said it many times and repeatedly. Arab Peace Initiative for Palestine, two-state solution. We are willing to normalize, we are willing to engage, we are willing to give the security guarantees for Israel. And I'm sure that the withdrawal from the Syrian lands also will bring back security to Israel and will bring peace for the Syrian and the Israeli people.
What I'm saying is that Qatar, along with many other Arab states, would normalise relations, but for the current situation and the cause. Time and again, as I speak to officials around this region who have these really ambitious economic visions in Riyadh, here, and in the UAE, they say it is imperative that they see de-escalation around this region and that they see economic integration. And they all say, and you just heard the Qatari PM say there, these countries will normalise with Israel if Israel addresses the root cause of the problem. No normalisation, of course, on the table for President Trump during the trip to Riyadh, because the Saudis see a pathway to a credible Palestinian state as absolutely imperative before they would sign that deal.
Yeah, a huge if on that point. Excellent interview, Becky Anderson. Thank you for that. And my next source sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democratic Senator of California, Adam Schiff, and it's great to have you here, Senator, because we heard the Qatari Prime Minister, who was in that meeting with President Trump and the Emir today, telling Becky Anderson that if there was anything illegal about this transaction, that the offer for the jet would not be so public. I wonder what you made of that response.
Well, I don't think he's exactly the arbiter of what the U.S. Constitution says, and plainly the Constitution prohibits a foreign government, a foreign king or prince, from giving a president of the United States, or really anyone holding office, a gift. And this is a massive $400 million gift to Donald Trump. And of course, the Qataris, they're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. They're buying influence with that gift. That gift will need to be scrubbed. It will need to be retrofit. It will cost taxpayers a great deal. And by the time that plane is ready for service, Donald Trump will be on his way out of office, and he will essentially have that private plane for himself. That's the whole intent of this deal. It's a great deal for Donald Trump. It's a terrible deal for taxpayers and for the country, but it is a clear violation of the Constitution as well.
Yeah, and Trump has said that he won't use it when he leaves office. Obviously, there's questions because there's no Trump library yet that it would technically be donated to. But on the security front that you just mentioned, are you worried that would be an issue? I mean, there's real questions of how they would even go about, ensuring that it would be completely safe and secure for the president's use.
Oh, it absolutely is a national security issue. The Qataris are very sophisticated with electronic surveillance. They've invested a lot of money in it, as have other Gulf nations. So that plane will need to be thoroughly scrubbed to make sure that they're not listening to the president's conversations on board that aircraft. Now, this administration that has always played fast and loose with security, as we saw with that Houthi chat, using commercial apps for discussions of military strike plans. So Donald Trump may not care about that, but the American people do. And it's going to cost a lot, take a lot of time to go through that plane. And when there are other planes, there is already an Air Force One for the president to use. He might not like the age of the aircraft, but what we should care about is that prohibition. The Constitution is designed to stop a foreign government from buying influence. And the Qataris are buying influence with this plane. They're going to want something back in return. And what they're going to want back in return is favorable U.S. policy towards Qatar. And that is not where the American people are coming from.
Yeah, it was striking to see the Boeing CEO sitting in the room today as they were signing agreements between Qatar and Boeing to buy planes, as Trump has obviously complained about Boeing's delays with producing the new Air Force One models. On what you mentioned earlier, the Constitution here, even though it does say the president would need congressional consent to accept a gift like this from a foreign government, is there actually any mechanism in place to stop the White House from accepting this plane?
Well, it's unclear during the first Trump administration when there was a similar case, but much less significant. The Gulf nations buying suites and whole floors at the Trump hotels to curry favor. There was an emoluments case brought against the Trump family, against the president. It worked its way through the courts. But of course, the courts delayed so much, and in particular, the Supreme Court delayed so much that by the time it was ready to be decided, Trump was already out of the presidency, and the Supreme Court found the matter was therefore moot. And we can expect the same kind of Trump delays when this transaction, if it goes through, when this transaction is tested in the courts, the same kind of Trump stall tactics. And, that just is hugely problematic. But in addition to all of that, what he's essentially seeking to do is launder this plane through the Defense Department. Even Pam Bondi has said it would be illegal for Trump to accept it directly to the foundation. So they want to launder it through the Defense Department as if that removes the illegality and the taint. It does not. It just embroils the Defense Department in this corrupt scheme.
While we were on Air Force One today, still the U.S. plane that was paid by Boeing, we talked to the president about what's happening, what's supposed to happen in Turkey this week, these all-important talks between Ukraine and Russia. Zelensky said he was ready to meet Putin there. It now appears that neither Putin nor Trump are going there. The president told me today he would go and be present if he thought that it would help bring an end to this war. I wonder your view of what the Russian leader is actually doing here, where he's daring Zelensky to meet him. Zelensky says, okay. And then right now, it doesn't seem like the Russian leader is going to show up there.
Well, I think it's been very clear since the president pushed these negotiations that notwithstanding the fact he was really requiring Ukraine to surrender, to give up its own lands, to give up its sovereignty, to give up its claims in the future, that Russia still was in no hurry to end the conflict or to bring about a ceasefire. Even with all of the leverage Donald Trump gave the Russians, just a wish list of Russian demands for Ukraine, the threatening of continued support for Ukraine militarily and intelligence support by Donald Trump against Ukraine. Even with all of that, Putin feels like he's in no hurry. He's not the least bit intimidated by Donald Trump. Trump is now threatening, there'll be massive sanctions on Russia. Putin could care less. He has sadly got the president's number all too well. He knows that the president is essentially a paper tiger and has already betrayed Ukraine. So I don't know what to make of this, what now seems to be a aborted meeting in Turkey, but I think Putin is playing the president perfectly.
Well, Trump seems to be getting potentially fed up with Putin. I mean, he suggested a few weeks ago that he was tapping him along. He told me today when I asked, when do you know how he's viewing this? He said to give it a few days. I mean, what outcome would you like to see happen here?
Well, the outcome I would like to see is the United States unequivocally supporting our ally Ukraine, not undermining it, not forcing it to accept some resolution that cedes Ukrainian territory and sovereignty. But we're well past that with this administration. I think, frankly, Caitlin, the Kremlin doesn't take Donald Trump's threats credibly. They don't take it seriously. There are already sanctions on Russia. The most meaningful ones, I just don't see this president embarking on, and that would be to go after Russia's oil industry, because that would raise oil costs, and the president's simply not willing to go there. But I don't really expect, notwithstanding Trump's frustration, it to materialize into anything to benefit Ukraine.
We'll see what happens. Senator Schiff, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.